Thank you very much, Monique. And good morning, and thank you very much for this very remarkable and very unique gathering of some very inspiring and remarkable people. So thank you. I would like to start by saying that as a woman from a community that is steeped in the ideas of honor and shame, I very quickly learned in my life what I could do and what I could not do. And in fact, I would say that it's impressed upon us from a very young age that we carry the burden as women of the honor and the reputation of our families and of our communities through our behavior. And this is just as true in England and in Norway as it was in Pakistan or in Kurdistan, simply because when our forefathers and foremothers came to these countries, they did not actually leave these mentalities behind. So we have to continue living still by those constructs, even though we were born and raised in these countries. So anyway, about 4 years ago, I set out on a personal mission to make a documentary film about honor. And the reason I wanted to do this is that I wanted to create a piece of work that could help Western authorities understand a bit better what this is, and also the impact that it actually has on young people and women in Western societies, women who are from minority communities. And the story that moved me deeply and that subsequently became the focus of my film is the story of Banaz Mahmoud. Now, Banaz was born in the Kurdish region of Iraq. She was subjected to female genital mutilation at the hands of her grandmother. At the age of 10, she moved together with her siblings and her parents to England. And by the age of 17, she was married. And this marriage was arranged by Banaz's father and uncle. And this marriage very quickly turned violent and abusive, as Banaz actually herself will now tell you a little bit more about.
After 2 years of marriage in 2005, Banaz went to the police. She said she wanted to make a report about the way her husband had been treating her.
So describe your relationship then from the very early stages through to when things started to go wrong for you.
He was just like, he was thinking like in 15 years back, like he was a strict husband. Whenever he wanted to have sex, it was just his way, always his way. Like whenever I said no, or he wouldn't take no for an answer, and he would just start raping me and doing what he liked to do. I tried to stop him, but he'd slap me or hit me on the back or just pull me by the hair. I just started to like come on my body, like hold on like that. That's it. That's when he said to me he would kill me if I said anything to anyone. I would get out of the bedroom, go to the bathroom. I cried a lot, but when I came out, he just acted like nothing has happened then. I was just 17 then. Some of the times it was in the living room that he raped me, or in the bedroom. I didn't know if this was normal in our culture or in here. I was only 17, so I just let him do what he liked. Whenever he raped me, it was like I was his shield and he would wear it just whenever he felt like it. He had told me to, if anyone had seen me, just tell them that you fell in the bathroom. He made me believe that my family had loved him more than they loved me, and if I ever told anyone that he would kill me or got no family around me and they're far away from me, so he could do anything with me as he liked. I didn't try to defend myself or anything. I just cried and
So when Banaz told her family about what she was experiencing in this marriage, their response was, you just need to go back and try and be a better wife to your husband. And Banaz did try this, but she couldn't really exist in this very suffocating environment. So eventually she actually left her husband and started the process of rebuilding her life. And a part of this was also her starting a new relationship. And this further intensified this feeling of shame and humiliation that her family was already experiencing because she had also left the husband that they had arranged the marriage with. Now, women like Banaz are expected to protect their families from humiliation and from shame. And so as a result, their behaviors are very tightly controlled, and anything that they do can cause them to be placed in a position where they might be exposed to extreme violence, not at the hands of the husband, but actually at the hands of their own parents and their own extended family. So a lot of women actually find themselves constantly under surveillance wherever they go. And any breach of this internal code of the community, as I say, can lead to very violent or very severe consequences for these women. So as a result of this very stifling pressure, it's extremely difficult for most women to actually come forward and report the violence that they're experiencing. So in the process of making this film, I had the privilege of interviewing some very remarkable experts around the topic of honor-based violence. And what I would like to do very briefly is share with you some of their insights right now.
I have to imagine what it's like to want to come forward and report or tell somebody about what's happening to you in your home. Everything that you knew and everything that you loved will have to be given up the moment you report this to somebody. Everything, your family, your friends, where you grew up, all the people around you.
Women from communities that have this honour ethos are they're under a form of constant surveillance. It's the eyes of the community, it's the young men of the community that are looking for them, that are keeping an eye out for any behaviour that's untoward, and that they're feeding us back constantly into the family. And it's this kind of constant surveillance that women get used to.
The way they dress, the way they fashion their hair, the makeup they wear, the friends they keep, the social hours they keep, where they go out, who they spoke to, what was said. They do not have the freedoms which a white Anglo-Saxon woman would have. They have to conform to these cultural norms. If they don't, they fall out of favour. If you fall out of favour, you know what's going to happen to you as an Asian female. Men ain't going to go against the system. Why would they? They get fed, they get looked after, they get sexual intercourse when they want it. They got everything on the table for them.
So women are not just the responsibility of the male members of our families. I would sort of say, in a strange sort of way, we are communal property, is how I feel. And by that, I mean that the community at large actually has jurisdiction over our lives, over our decisions, over our behaviors, over our future, over our dreams. And some of the ways that this can manifest itself in is, for example, they will monitor our behavior and report back to our families the actions that we're taking, what we've done, what they've seen us do, what they've heard us do. And another way could be that they will actively actually encourage violence against us. So the flow of pressure, in essence, moves from the community to the family down to the individual. And in Banaz's case, this pressure led to a collective decision that was taken on December 2nd, 2005, in a meeting that was convened by her uncle, where members of the community and also the family came together and decided that Banaz must die. And as a result of this meeting, on New Year's Eve, Banaz's father did try to kill her. Luckily, she managed to get away, and she sought help at a nearby cafe. Police was called on this occasion, and the officer completely disbelieved Banaz and completely dismissed her as being dramatic and as being overreactive. And instead of doing anything, she went to the father and told the father that Banaz was trying to make a complaint against him. So as you can imagine, this just further put Banaz in danger beyond what she already was in. So overall, Banaz in her lifetime went to the police 5 different times asking for help before she was murdered. So this means that there were multiple points of intervention that were passed and that no appropriate action were taken. Now I would like to take you back to the previous police interview that was done with Banaz so she can explain a little bit further the circumstances that she was in at the time.
After Banaz left her husband, she was worried that men were following her in the streets, and she felt that they had been sent by her husband.
I recognised her face, and he hasn't come to my house ever, but I've seen him on occasions on weddings and that. And even now, when I go out, I mean, one guy, as soon as I came out of the house, he was following me with a car. I heard someone calling my name in my language. So I turned around and he told me that he should give me a lift and I should go into his car. And I said no and just put my head down and keep walking. So that day he was just following me. People following me. Or still now they follow me. And that was the main reason that I came to the police station. Okay. That in the future or at any time, if anything happens to me, it's them.
If ever you're worried or afraid for your own safety, you must contact us straight away. All right, I don't want you worrying. We can get somebody out. If it turns out it's been just then, at least you know for your own peace of mind.
Now that I'm getting this thing, what can you do for me?
You've given us lines of inquiry that we will need to follow up.
Okay.
Okay. But we will let you know what's going on as it's happening, really, just so that you're kept informed and up to date as to what's going on. Okay.
By going to the police, Banaz was putting herself at great risk. But after her death, a police complaint inquiry found no evidence that the police had made any effort at all to trace her husband or to investigate her case. It took the police 3 months just to write up a statement. This was one of 5 occasions that Banaz went to the police.
People following me, or still out, they follow me.
They missed all the signs that she was in great danger.
Anyone who's at risk, the first people they call is police. And she called them so many times. If they believed her, if they wanted to help her, she could be alive today.
Now that I'm getting this thing, what can you do for me?
In Banaz's case, there were almost a landslide of mistakes flowing from a lack of understanding, a lack of awareness, some poor policing, which we all recognise now.
I've worked on this film for such a long time, and still every time I watch these clips of Banaz, I find it really, really difficult. It breaks my heart every single time to watch this young woman beg for her life and beg for help and be met with just nothing. Anyway, it's unlike Banaz. Most young people and most young women who suffer under the system of honor don't actually come forward and ask for help. And this is why it's absolutely crucial that police officers, social workers, school teachers, even nurses and doctors are capable of recognizing the signs and are capable of seeing what it looks like when somebody like this comes and may be in need of some help or some support. And in Banaz's instance, you know, she had no support network whatsoever. She had nowhere else to go. So what she did, because she didn't feel she had any other choice, is that she actually moved back in her parents' house again, even though her father had just tried to kill her. And one of the things I'd like to point out is that wherever honor is involved in these cases, honor is the ingredient that can escalate violence to lethal levels very, very quickly. And that's why it's absolutely necessary that early recognition and early detection and also intervention takes place. So now I would like to very briefly again refer back to some of our experts for some more of their perspectives that they gave in the film.
Embarrassment or dishonour. Any of these three notions can lead to honour-based violence and can also lead to honour killings.
The thing about honour killings that makes them distinctive from other forms of violence against women is that they tend to have a very collaborative nature. They're a collective crime.
It's not your crime of passion, you know, it's not something that you spontaneously thought you could do something about. We're talking about organised crime, men sitting around a table who decided that she must die. That's how conspiratorial it was, that's how deep it was.
These families are very large, they're very interdependent. It can be seen as a necessity to sacrifice one for the sake of all the other members of that family.
So just a few weeks after this first murder attempt on Banaz's life, her parents left her alone in the house. It was early morning. She was still asleep when 3 men from the community entered the house. They found Banaz, and they beat Banaz. They gang raped Banaz. Then they strangled her to death, and then they stuffed her body into a suitcase and buried it. Now, 3 months after this, Banaz's body was found by Detective Chief Inspector Caroline Good, who took on this case in what was a very complicated and an innovative investigation, which ultimately did achieve justice for Banaz, with now 5 prosecutions and the first ever extradition from Iraq. And actually last week I heard that there is a 6th man that has just gone on trial, which was actually the driver who drove Banaz's body to Birmingham to bury her. I would like to play you a short clip of Detective Chief Inspector Caroline Good, where she will read a short piece of a transcript from a covert recording that was made of one of the murderers, who is describing what they actually did to Banaz that morning.
He immediately put the cord around her neck. She was vomiting. Well, he put the wire around her neck and gave it to me. Then I was holding to the cord so tight and stamping on her neck as well. When I stamped on the back of her neck, her mouth and nose were on the floor, and that was in the suitcase. I was saying, let her soul be discharged. I was kicking her head. The soul would not discharge that easily. The wire around her neck, it went deep through the skin. Her soul was not getting discharged. Because he was able to tighten it further, he tightened it around her neck, and it didn't take more than 4 to 5 minutes, her soul was discharged. And she didn't make a sound.
In the UK, it is estimated that there are around 12 honour killings a year. In 2011, there were close to 3,000 instances of honour crimes, yet there is still no specialist honour-based violence crime unit at the police in this country. and awareness levels are still very patchy, especially on the lower levels, which will tend to be the officers most likely to encounter a person at risk. And you know, my sort of personal perspective on this is that centuries-old mentalities and social structures will take time to change, and there is still a lot of work that needs to be done on that front. But I do believe that where we can make an immediate impact and create change right now is to end the fatal ignorance of the authorities. You know, and this is why I made this documentary. And this is also why I ended up with Joanne Payton, who is one of the foremost experts on honor-based violence, that I set up this resource center online so that this information and training materials can be available and easily accessible for people who might be in need of this information in case they come across somebody in Banaz's situation. And it's to me horrifying in the course of making this film, the level of ignorance that I found even in some of the research interviews that I would do. And it's, you know, it's, yes, these are new phenomenons, and there are, you know, aspects of this that we all need to understand. And, you know, crime, you know, people in the police are reactive, so they can only learn about things as they happen. But I mean, truly, you know, these communities, our communities, have been in these societies for such a long time that it's about time that we start learning the dynamics of the crimes that we bring with us or that our families brought with them. Because if we don't, then our children, our sisters will continue to be butchered in this way, or they will continue to suffer in silence. And it's, you know, it's, personally speaking, I can no longer, as a member of the communities where these honor killings do happen, I can no longer stand by in silence as women like Banaz continue to be erased. I can no longer stand by in silence as these women suffer without any support, without any understanding whatsoever. And, you know, ultimately, I want these women, and I want Banaz and the others like her, to be mourned and to be remembered. And the reason I say that is because one of the intentions of these killings is not just to actually murder the being of a person, but it's also to murder the memory of that person. So the least we can do is to bear witness. And the least we can do is to remember these women and to acknowledge the fact that they were here, and acknowledge the fact that this does happen and that this did happen to them. You know, it's, for me, this documentary has been a labor of love, and it's been a very emotional process. I've become to love a young woman who I've never met. And it's, our silence allows this to happen. And whether our silence is born from political correctness, or we don't want to step on the toes of particular communities, or we want to be careful, or we want to be culturally sensitive, that's all well and good. Those are all very noble feelings and noble intentions. But if the outcome of that is that our young people and our women die or suffer, then what good is that kind of politeness? What good is those kind of gestures? What good is that kind of understanding when people are suffering at the other end of it? So at the heart of it all, I made this film because I wanted her voice to be heard, a voice that in life was ignored and not understood, even though she was calling out for help so many times. I want us to hear her voice now, so that when in the future we hear voices like her, we will be able to hear and we will be able to recognize those voices, and that at least those voices and those people in the future, unlike Banaz, will receive the support, will receive the understanding and the protection that they deserve. So thank you very much for listening.